Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing tips and tricks on Renata. Now, I've recently been spamming a lot of Renata. She's an incredibly overpowered champion. I personally think that with only a few games you can get to a stage where you'll realize why Renata, in my opinion, is one of the most overloaded support kits currently in the game. She has some of the greatest counter engage you can find on support, and in the form of her W, she's got one of the strongest normal abilities on support as a whole. So using these tips, hopefully you can get some pretty free LP, come out on top in a bunch of lanes. And remember, if you're enjoying this video, it would really help if you hit the like button and leave a comment on which champion you want to see next. I'll be making more of these. The first and most important tip, if you learn only one thing from this video, is her W. We're gonna just discuss briefly a couple of things you should know about her W to make sure you use this spell correctly. This separates the good Renatas and the bad Renatas. It's your identity spell. It is the spell that this champion is based around. If you use your W and while it's on an allied champion, they die, they will be revived, and they have 3 seconds to get a kill. That 3 seconds, they will be decaying, and the enemies can also still damage them. So they can reduce the timer lower and lower. So you get 3 seconds where you're decaying, but if you're getting hit by an enemy, that 3 seconds might become 2 seconds, it might even become 1 second. So it's really important to learn when and where to use this abilities. Let's talk about a couple of tips you can use. So first of all, if you look at Renata's W, the attack speed and move speed actually increases over 5 seconds. So sometimes it's actually better to put the attack speed and move speed buff on your AD carry while they're DPSing, even if they're not just about to die, so that they can get the attack speed and move speed and kill a target fast, because as you can see, it says takedowns refresh the duration of the buff, which means if your AD carry is getting resets, you don't need to save the W to try and save them before they get one shot. You can give that to, say, a Jinx and let her run crazy. Just keep that in mind, because this ability is so powerful that you don't only need to save it to try and use it as a Zillion ult or a pseudo GA. Sometimes you can just use it to turbocharge your allies and allow them to get constant resets in teamfights. And a little bit of a bonus point on the topic of your W, if there is no chance to get a return kill on the enemies, then your W is basically useless as a revive. If you use your W on a target on your team who is just about to get one shot, but there is no way of that target on your team somehow killing someone on the enemy team, then your W is not going to help. If someone's about to get blown up by a Talon or by an assassin and you put W on them with no way of getting them a return kill, sometimes it may not even be worth wasting the W on them. It might be worth using your W on a target that actually has a chance to revive in the first place. I know these points might sound basic, but Renata W really is one of the most important abilities you will use on this champ, and you really should practice figuring out when and where to use it in teamfights. Point number 2 is pretty straightforward. How does Renata W interact with a few important things? Number 1 you should know about is Kindred ult. So if you use Renata W on Kindred ult, it actually delays your death, but you'll keep decaying after the Kindred ult is over. Also with Renata W, Pyke will not be able to get the reset if he ults you when you have W on. He might still kill you and get the execute off, but he will not reset his ultimate, which is a really big deal in teamfights and can stop Pykes from completely 1v9ing a fight. However, if you're decaying after you die and Pyke ults you, he will actually reset. Another really useful trick is to stopwatch when you're decaying to delay the decay timer. If you get an assist during the decay, you will actually reset and survive, which is an incredibly powerful thing to keep in mind in the middle of a team fight. And finally, it's important to know the order in which GA works when you W a target. The GA will always happen after the W revive, so just keep that in mind when you're deciding who to W in a team fight. Point number 3 is your ultimate flash. Now, this is a tool that good Renata players will use to guarantee the ultimate hits on targets that could easily dodge it. Now, your R, as you can see here, it's one of the slowest skill shots in the game. So how do you hit a target that's expecting an R from a distance? Well, you close the gap with flash, and if you get the timing right, it basically becomes a point-blank skill shot. It's extremely hard to dodge. So I would recommend practicing the timing, and once you get it down, it will look like this. So once you get that down, you will be able to hit R's out of nowhere and surprise people that would otherwise have just strolled out of your hitbox. Point number 4, Renata R actually works on HEIMERDINGER turrets. This is a very useful tool if you want to, say, kill a HEIMERDINGER in the middle of all his turrets. It's actually quite easy to do that. However, weirdly enough, it does not work on Heimer's large turret. There's a couple of other interactions I think you might want to know. It works on things like Elise spiders. For some strange reason, it works on Zyra plants in that it makes them go berserk. The Zyra plants do not deal damage to Zyra for whatever reason. And also it works on things like Tibbers. So yeah, I mean, Use that knowledge however you will, but there are certain cases where that might really help. Point number 5, double tap your Q to insta activate it. It turns it basically into a mini Alistair headbutt. You can interrupt a lot of important spells, things like Zac E, Jarvan E, EQ combo, Alistair headbutt, all of these kind of spells. It is important to remember what you can do, and that Renata sort of functions as a Janna in these cases where she can deny engages on one target. Very powerful spell. Point number 6 is your E has a shield on the end. You should remember this for situations where you need to shield teammates that are a little further away from you, because yeah, you get your shield in the area around you, but wherever you land it, your teammates will also get a shield. So utilize this if your teammates are chasing and you can't keep up with them, to help them out in the middle of the fight with a little bit of a shield. Point number 7 is an important one for early game trades. Your passive auto attack that applies a mark that your teammates can pop can only apply to one target at a time. So in the middle of fights, you should be weaving auto attacks into your combos, but keep in mind to use it on the same target if possible. You don't want to be changing targets too often in the middle of fights unless your teammates can easily proc those marks. So as you can see here, I auto attack this Teemo, he has the mark. If I auto attack this Teemo, then as you can see, the mark has moved. Keep that in mind for early game trades. Point number 8 is something which I don't actually like about Renata, but it's important to know this, especially early game for trades. If you hit your Q on a target, you actually cannot auto attack them or use your auto attack at all until the Q expires. And again, this is going to lower your damage in some cases, so just keep that in mind, because like I said in the last point, your auto attacks matter quite a lot and they deal a lot of damage, so keep that in mind. And the last point is how to get vision on Renata. It's very important when you're face checking brushes and you think there's enemies, don't use your E. Your E actually does not give any vision inside the brush. However, your Q does. So if you use Q, as you can see, it reveals the Teemo. Now keep in mind that your Q will only reveal one target. It will not reveal multiple targets if you hit them with the second part of your Q. And there's one other way that you can get vision in the brush, and that is using R. R gives vision wherever it goes, so keep those in mind when you are face checking brushes, as it's very easy to die and Renata is super squishy, so don't get caught. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button and leave a comment letting me know which champion you want to see next, and I'll get right on making that. Good luck in Soul, you guys. Have fun.